The world, for the first 23 years of my existence, was exactly 3 feet wide and 4 feet tall. It was framed in oxidized aluminum, smudged with fingerprints that weren't mine, and locked tight from the outside to keep the sterile, climate-controlled air of Ward 4 from escaping. Through that hospital window, I watched the seasons change like a silent movie I hadn't paid to see. I watched spring arrive in a burst of green that looked mocking against the white walls of my room. I watched children race down the concrete pavement below, their knees scraping against the rough ground. I envied their pain. I envied it with a desperate, clawing hunger because at least their skin was touching something real. Something that hadn't been washed in bleach, scrubbed with isopropyl alcohol, and wiped down by a masked stranger. I watched teenagers sneak cigarettes behind the bicycle sheds, their lungs expanding with toxic, beautiful smoke, while my own lungs rattled like dry autumn leaves inside a cage of ribs that felt entirely too small to hold them. By the time I turned 20, the envy had curdled into something monstrous. It was a rotting, bitter thing that settled deep in my stomach, turning every word that left my mouth into a poison, a weapon meant to wound before I could be wounded. I became the undisputed tyrant of the terminal wing. The nurses learned to drop my trays and leave without making eye contact, whispering about my temper in the hallways. But they could go home at the end of their shifts. They could step out into the rain, breathe the night air, and forget about the boy dying in room 412. My mother couldn't. She was a small woman, bent out of shape by the sheer weight of keeping a ghost anchored to the earth. She worked 3 separate jobs, her fingers permanently stained with the cheap blue ink of ledger books and the harsh lie of office floor detergents. When she came to sit by my bed in the evenings, her eyes were always rimmed with a terrifying, bloodshot exhaustion. Her shoulders drooped, her cheap cardigan was worn thin at the elbows, and she smelled of rain and cheap soap. And because I loved her so much that it felt like a physical hemorrhage in my chest, because the guilt of knowing her youth, her joy, and her very life were being poured into a cracked vessel that would never hold water, I treated her like my worst enemy. "Stop coming here." I would scream at her, my voice cracking and wet with sputum, my chest heaving as I tried to claw my way out of the suffocating weight of my own uselessness. "Look at you. You look pathetic. Why are you wasting money on a dead weight? Do you think I want you sitting here, watching me rot? Just let me die in peace so you can finally go live a life." I wanted her to hate me. I lay awake at night, listening to the rhythmic, mocking beep of the heart monitor, whispering cruelties into the dark. I figured that if she hated me, if I could make her despise the very sound of my voice, the grief wouldn't tear her apart when the monitor finally gave up and drew its long, flat line. I thought if I was cruel enough, she would walk out of that hospital room, take a deep breath of the outside air, and never look back. But she never did. She would just sit there, her face crumpling, and press a cold, wet cloth to my burning forehead. Her tears would fall onto my paper-thin skin, warm and heavy, as she whispered that she was sorry. She was sorry she couldn't give me a stronger body. She was sorry she had failed me. When the darkness finally came to claim me on a rainy Tuesday afternoon, the rain was drumming a frantic, chaotic beat against the